$770 a month. That is the average payment on a new car in America right now. And it is the highest number ever recorded in the history of the data. Not the payment on a rich man's German sports sedan, and not the payment in some expensive coastal city. The national average. Now hold that number in your head and run a completely different movie for a moment. Take that same $770 every month and, instead of sending it to a lender, put it into a boring index fund for a working lifetime, 30 years, at an ordinary 7% return. You end up with roughly $940,000, which is what a permanent car payment actually costs over a working life. Not $770 a month, but almost $1 million, dressed up in a costume that makes it look small. And the strangest part of this whole story is that nobody around you thinks any of it is unusual. A car payment gets treated like weather or taxes, like a force of nature that simply exists and cannot be questioned. Today, we are going to question it. One quick note before we start. This is education, not financial advice, and I am not going to tell you what to drive or what to buy. I am going to show you what the numbers say, and this time the numbers are parked in your driveway. Here is the belief we are testing today, and almost every adult you know carries some version of it around. A car payment is just a normal part of life. Everyone has one. You work hard, you deserve something nice, and the monthly number on the offer sheet looks like something you can handle. Now look closely at the trick hiding inside that belief, because it is doing all of the work. Nobody in that sentence ever talks about what the car costs. They only ever talk about what it costs per month. That is not an accident. The entire industry, the dealer, the lender, the advertising is organized around one single question: what monthly payment are you looking for? Because the moment you start thinking in monthly payments instead of total price, they can sell you almost any car on the lot. Stretch the loan out far enough, and an expensive car produces the same monthly number as a modest car. You simply keep paying it for 7 years instead of 4. And that stretching is not a rare trick anymore. It is the standard shape of the American car loan. The average new car loan in America now runs about 70 months, which means the typical buyer signs up for roughly 6 years of payments before the machine is truly theirs. And a growing share of loans now run to 84 months, 7 full years of debt for a car most people are bored of after 3. By the way, the used market is not a refuge from any of this, because the average used car payment now sits at $531 a month, and the average lease at $619. Wherever you look on the lot, the monthly numbers keep climbing, and the loans keep getting longer. Now, we need to talk about what happens to the thing you are paying for, because this is where the car payment separates itself from every other kind of debt. A house, whatever its problems, usually holds its value over time, and a business loan at least buys something that can produce income and pay for itself. A car is different. A new car loses roughly 20% of its value in the first year, and by the end of year 5, it has lost around 60% of what you paid. It is the only thing that ordinary people borrow enormous amounts of money to buy that is absolutely guaranteed to collapse in value. There is no debate about this, no maybe, no market cycle that saves you, because every single new car does it, on a schedule you can look up in advance. So picture the full transaction honestly, from start to finish. You borrow a large amount of money, you pay it back over 6 or 7 years with interest added on top, and the thing you bought melts the entire time, like an ice sculpture standing in the sun. You are paying compound interest on an asset with guaranteed negative returns, which makes the car loan the exact mirror image of investing. And now the trap actually closes, because we have to talk about what most people do after 4 or 5 years of payments. Very few of them finish the loan, breathe out, and enjoy a few years of calm, payment-free driving. They get bored. Somewhere around year 3, the new car feeling wears off completely, and the same machine that once felt like a reward starts to feel like an old phone. The car starts to feel old, the dealer calls with a friendly offer, and they trade the car in while they still owe money on it. Here's the record that nobody is celebrating. Right now, almost 31% of all trade-ins toward a new car are underwater. The exact figure is 30.9, and it is the highest ever measured. Underwater means the driver still owes more money on the loan than the car itself is actually worth. Almost 1 out of every 3 people standing in the showroom is starting the new deal from below zero. And what does the dealer do with that leftover debt? The dealer smiles and says it is no problem at all, because the old balance can simply be rolled into the new loan. The average amount being rolled over right now is about $7,200, which is 42% more than buyers were rolling over just 5 years ago. In roughly 1 out of 4 of these cases, the rolled amount is more than $10,000. Think about what that actually is. It is debt from a car you no longer own, buried inside the loan for a car you just bought. And to keep the monthly number bearable, 90% of these rollover loans run 6 years or longer, while 43% stretch all the way to the full 84 months. Across all of these rollover loans, the average term has now crept up to 77.4 months. The Federal Consumer Watchdog, the CFPB, studied what happens to these borrowers next, and the finding is grim. People who roll old car debt into a new car loan are 1.5 times more likely to have that new car repossessed within 2 years. That is the final stage of the trap, paying interest on 2 cars, driving one of them, and losing it anyway. This whole cycle has a name inside the industry, and the name is not victim or target or mark. The name is customer. A customer is someone who never stops paying. The car in the driveway changes every few years, but the payment itself never goes away, and that is the entire business model. So why do we walk into this with our eyes open? Because a car was never just a way to get from one place to another, and the industry understood that long before we did. Your car is the most visible thing you own, and it parks your status in front of the neighbors every single night. The people selling cars know they are selling an identity product, so they sell you the feeling first, and then they finance that feeling over 84 months. You are not weak or stupid for wanting the nice car. You are human. But that completely normal human wanting is exactly the raw material this trap has always been built from. Now, for the honest other side of this argument, because just do not own a car is advice that only works in a handful of big cities, and most people cannot use it. In most of America, a car is not a luxury item, because there is no train coming to save you. You need a car to reach your job, and a reliable machine that starts every single morning is protecting your income, which means it has real financial value of its own. Safety matters too. A modern car with modern brakes and airbags carrying your children to school is not vanity, and nobody serious would call it that. And yes, once in a while the financing math is genuinely fine. A rare 0% deal on a modest car you were going to buy anyway can make sense, although that discount is usually hiding somewhere else in the price. So the point of this video is not never buy a car, and it is not that driving debt-free makes you morally superior to your neighbor. The point is precision. The problem is not the car. The problem is more car than your cash flow can carry, replaced every few years, financed over 7-year loans, with the leftovers of old debt buried inside the new ones. That specific pattern, and it is now the normal pattern in America, is a machine for shredding wealth. So here is what you actually do about it, in 5 rules. Rule 1. Flip the question. When the dealer asks what monthly payment you are looking for, the honest answer is that the monthly payment is irrelevant. Ask what the car costs, all in, total, out the door, with every fee and all the interest included. People who build wealth ask how much the car costs, while people who stay broke ask how much it costs a month. Rule 2. Let someone else pay for the ice sculpture. Buy a car that is 3 to 5 years old, because the first owner has already paid for the steepest part of the melt. You get roughly 80% of the machine for about 40% of the original price, which is the best deal in the entire car market. Then comes the real move. Drive that car for 10 years, not 3. Rule 3. Set a hard ceiling on the loan before you ever walk onto the lot. If you cannot pay the loan off in about 4 years or less, it is too much car for your income. Full stop. Stretching to 84 months is not a clever payment plan. It is a written confession that the car is above your income class, with interest charged on the confession. Rule 4. When the loan finally ends, keep making the payment to yourself. The month your car is paid off, redirect that exact same amount into an index fund, automatically, before you have time to get used to having it back. That is how the movie from the beginning of this video, the one worth roughly $940,000, becomes your movie instead of the lender's. Rule 5. Never ever roll negative equity into a new loan. If you are underwater on your current car, the adult move is to keep driving it and keep paying until the math turns in your favor. Burying old debt inside new debt is exactly how almost 1 in 3 showroom customers ended up starting from below zero. If you remember one line from this video, make it this one. A car payment feels like a normal part of adult life, and that feeling is the most profitable illusion the auto industry has ever built. The payment is not the price of the car. It is the price of never asking the real question. $770 a month, forever, buys your lender a fortune. The same money, pointed in the other direction for 30 years, buys that fortune for you. Same dollars, one decision. If this made you look at your own driveway a little differently, subscribe, because next time we take apart another comfortable story the money world keeps selling you. And tell me below, what is your car payment right now, and how many months are left on the loan? Be honest, nobody here is judging, and I read every single comment.